Hello, everyone! I am so excited to be here with everyone. We had a little bit of technical issues, but it's all resolved. You get to see our wonderful faces. Of course, we are here today to celebrate the release of Never a Hero by Vanessa Len. Whee! In conversation, we have Chloe Gong. Hello, everyone. Vanessa Len is an Australian author of Chinese, Malaysian, and Maltese heritage. An educational editor, she has worked on everything from language learning programs to STEM resources to professional learning for teachers. Vanessa is a graduate of the Clarion Workshop in San Diego. Hey, I know that place and I know that organization. And she lives in Melbourne. In conversation, we have Chloe Gong, the #1 New York Times bestselling author of the critically acclaimed Secret Shanghai novels, as well as the Flesh and False Gods trilogy. Her books have been published in over 20 countries. Wow. There's more than I know. Have been featured in the New York Times, People, Forbes, and more. Thank you so much. And Vanessa, I believe you wanted to say something?
Yes, I would love to do a land acknowledgement, which is something that usually happens before Australian events. So I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land where I am right now and the land where I wrote most of my book, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and I would like to pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. And I would love to thank you, Nick, Mysterious Galaxy, for hosting. Chloe, thank you so much for hosting. And of course, Harper, my publishing team, and everybody who's here today, all the people post midnight. Oh my gosh, thank you.
And for those of you who have ordered or will order, because you still have time to order, there's a link below if you're watching live. Even if you're watching later on, you can still click that link below, because while supplies last, we have a black envelope. Should I show it off, Vanessa? Black envelope full of awesome goodies that are coming with your order of Never a Hero. First, signed book plate. Everything everyone loves, signed book plate. Sarah, you might have to refresh your window if you're not seeing anyone. Her says starting soon. Does everyone say starting soon? Can you see us? I wonder if people need to refresh their browser.
Oh, funny if we were talking to Noah.
Oh my gosh. They can watch it later. Okay, well, I'm going to show it off. Okay, can people... Yes, okay, people can see us, yes.
We're good.
Okay, so you saw the book plate. You get this bookmark. And look at these character cards. That's my favorite.
Oh, it looks so good in print. Oh, gorgeous.
The artist is Lily Fort. If anyone wants to check her out on Instagram, she's amazing.
Oh.
Yeah.
I've seen you share the digital versions of these, but they're so nice.
I know, the cards came out really nice. Yeah. They're kind of, I don't know, they're really nice to hold.
They almost feel like playing cards, to be honest.
Yeah,
they're nice and thick.
That's what I got from a playing card company.
Oh wow. And look, like, you get so many people just for pre-ordering your
only if you order from Mysterious Galaxy, otherwise you don't get as many.
Yeah, my gosh. People, you should. And look, you get some cool looking art cards. And my favorite of the art cards.
Yay.
That is so cute. All right. And yes, so while supplies last, if you order with Mysterious Galaxy, we'll make sure you get your book, obviously, as well as these. And if you have any questions that you'd like to ask Vanessa later in the program, be sure on the right-hand side, there is a box with a question mark. Please click that and you can submit your questions and they'll be answered later on the program. All right. I'm going to disappear, leave it to these two wonderful authors to take it away, but I'll see everyone towards the end of the program.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you.
I love it. Hello. I've been so excited for this all day. So, okay. The reason why we are delayed is because I was stuck outside the green room for a very long time. I arrived like 20 minutes beforehand.
Oh, no.
Weird. Then I'm just, seeing a black screen, right? And then we get to like 5 minutes beforehand. I'm like, okay, something's not right. But I made it!
Yay, I'm so happy.
Congratulations on US release. This is so good. I'm so excited it's out in the world now. Like, she's also thick. You can't like see it.
I know. Yeah.
Like,
She's really
More
thick.
thin book. Pages kind of hide it a little, but she's chunky.
I don't know. Harper did some miracle where books 1 and 2 really match. They feel the same weight. It's amazing.
Is book
It was
2
a miracle.
significantly longer than book 1?
Yeah, a little bit more.
No, I realized this because I'm a flipper to the ender. I don't read the ending first, but I like seeing how many pages there are. And you have 500 pages, and this doesn't actually look like a 500-page book, right?
I do.
Shook it. Bang for your buck. So to start off, I would like to ask you to give us a little, elevator pitch of Never a Hero. I assume most people in this event know because it's a sequel. But if for any reason someone has kind of come in here being like, I want to hear Vanessa pitch it, how would you elevator pitch this book?
So the first one, Only a Monster, I always pitch as a monster girl whose summer is ruined when the cute guy at work turns out to be a monster slayer. So I'm going to do a spoiler for the end of book 1 so that I can talk at all about book 2.
Book 1 spoilers, I think, are okay for this. I'm sure everyone has read book 1. Well, we'll be gentle on book 2 spoilers because most people.
Yeah, we'll be very gentle on book 3 spoilers. So for book 2, everything really ramps up, and I had like a whiteboard as I was writing this with all of the structure on it, and I wrote this guiding line on the bottom of the whiteboard. It's like, if you take out the hero, you'd better take responsibility for the villain. So that's really what book 2 is about.
Oh, that's
a new villain emerges, and Joan is having to, bring back all her allies, some of whom aren't allies anymore.
Not having a good
time. Yes, and then they have to fight an even bigger villain.
And it's fantastic. As I was reading through this, I was like, you really ramped up the stakes. Like you said, Joan will feel the consequences of her actions.
I love it when there are consequences for things. So I feel like the end of book 2 kind of looked like it could be a reset button, but it wasn't. It was not a reset button. There were all these huge consequences for what she did. Poor Joan. I feel like I was very mean to her.
You were, but that's what we love, It gives it impact. It gives it juiciness.
Right.
What are you most excited for people to read about in book 2?
I'm really excited for people to read. I feel like my favorite character is the villain of this story. So I'm really excited when she finally appears, and I'm like, because I've been planning for her to appear since, really before I started writing book 1. So I cannot wait for people to read that section towards the end.
You really sowed the seeds, in book 1. You didn't give us too much because you were clearly planning it.
Yes.
So I hope you were proud of yourself.
Thank you.
Okay. In my little list of questions, I was like, I'm going to start with this because the last time I saw you in Brisbane, I was like, Vanessa, I love Aaron so much. Nothing's ever going to change my mind. I want him and Joan to fall in love and live happily ever after. And then, as I was reading this book, I was like, damn, Nick's kind of swaying me. So I want to talk about, you do enemies to lovers from just about every angle and every iteration, every nuance. So tell us a little about the romance arc of this book and how you wanted to approach it and what you were trying to do to my heart.
I love this question. I feel like with the romance, both romances, it was always really thematic for me. So Joan is part monster, part human, and she moves between these worlds. So I really wanted her to have 2 love interests that represented each side of her. So we've got Nick the human, we've got Aaron the monster. And yeah, for me, that kind of triangle is really in conversation with the kind of the central crisis of Joan, which is that, the 2 parts of herself are in conflict. And I think she's somebody who really loves to be in harmony, actually, and would love it if both sides of her could get along, could be reconciled. And I guess that's the big question of the whole series, how can this be reconciled? These 2 sides, monsters and humans, have done such terrible things to each other. And yeah, I wanted her, I think also the 2 guys give her things that she really needs. I think only Aaron kind of understands that Joan has a monster side, actually. And also Nick only kind of understands, I think they have a similar morality, Nick and Joan. So yeah, I feel like the end game, I think I've really planted the seeds, I hope, in books 1 and 2 of the final end game. I'm really, really, really excited for people to read it. I feel like that has been the most fun thing to write of all.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think that's how you know it's a good love triangle, because both parties are offering something so fundamental to characters, like needs and wants in life. They all represent something. I'm like, that segues really well into my next question, which originally I didn't even write it out. I just went, Joan. I love Joan, and I was like, wait, more. Let's expand on this. This book, as you had said, it really delves into the consequences of her decisions in book 1. It's not just that she gets to erase everything that happens. What she did, even if it was an erasure, it has continual devastating impact. She really has to reckon with it. I just tell us about how you imagined, like, how you created the sense of like morality, the nuances behind it, because in a way, hero's not really the hero. Bad things. The monsters are not really the monsters. They do some good things, but they're also kind of bad, as happens on two sides. And how did you imagine these opposing sides in your head? Are they very stark, or are they? Did you really? What do you want to say?
Yeah, I think what I was really interested in was, in a way, I feel like you've probably had this experience. I've probably had this experience where you're watching a movie or something, and then you're really into the hero because they're amazing, they're bantery, they've got all these friends and family that you really love, and then suddenly the hero is just killing people that look like you, and you're like, oh, I don't think I like that as much. So I had really wanted to write about that feeling when, like, a really good and decent and upright hero is fighting against you rather than for you. This is where the metaphor falls down, of course. But I also wanted, I suppose, them to really be monsters in this series. Like, I wanted it to feel justified that the hero was killing them, but also justified when the monsters react and it feels like overkill. So yeah, I guess I love a moral grayness. I love it when two sides, you can kind of understand their perspective. And I think that's a lot harder when things are very black and white rather than grey. The more grey it is, the more you can kind of be like, well, I kind of understand both of your perspectives. You're kind of both doing some wrong things, both doing some right things. And I had really, I was also really interested in the way that narratives kind of confer and deny empathy on characters. So I really wanted to treat the monsters, no matter how bad the things were that they were doing, in the same way that you would treat a hero. You give them, people who love them, people that they love. You give them stakes and hopes and dreams, and then you kind of set them loose on the plot, and hopefully people
give them trauma. Yeah. Oh, I love that, because it really shows, I think, when it's very unclear which of the two sides are you really meant to side with. And in that itself is actually a really good thing that holds up a story. You don't want to just easily side with one.
Yeah, I wanted Joan's choice to essentially, kind of feel impossible. Like, all of these choices are right or wrong. It's just, they'll all all the choices have consequences, I guess, is the way I think about it. It's like, all the choices are hard and all the choices have consequences.
Yes. I love it. I love what you're doing. I love the blurring of the lines. Okay, to jump back to another question that I had. Back to the romance. I swear that's the last romance question. Okay. I kept myself in control. There's a primary dynamic here, I think, in both ends of the love triangle, where it's that in any life trope, anything in a past still bleeds through into the present. Anything in the present is still influencing the rest of you out there. And it yearns. It really yearns, you did this so well. So what were you kind of moving into place as you were writing this? How did you create that feeling of the uncrossable distance, and yet you're always going to be somehow gravitating towards these people?
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, I really love it when you can see people in different lights and different circumstances. So I had wanted to build these kind of layers of timelines where there was a true timeline when everything was perfect, everything worked, the relationships were, there was no problems. But then I wanted to show, oh, what about now? What about now with different circumstances? Now, what do those relationships look like? And then again, now, what do they look like? Like, I'm really interested in the ways that I guess those things change, but also, the way that you can still love somebody even after, even after they've changed a little bit, I think is part of it. But also, I was kind of interested in those ideas of like, is it fate or is it your choice? And I think, again, those two guys really represent those two different sides. Is it fate or is it choice? And then that will really be, again, in conversation with the end game of the whole third book. What do you do? What do you do when it's a fated romance, but also a choice romance, I guess?
Which makes things so hard for us readers. Because I love fated romances, and then I love defying the fate romances. So I'm like, what the heck? I love that. I especially love what you do, where it's that, the past isn't more important or less important than the present. They are different. There's these different lines of these lives that these characters have lived, and that memory makes things so much harder.
Yeah, it was really interesting to write just slightly different versions of the characters, like really fun to write slightly different versions of the characters in book 2. And I guess in book 3, it's like these are still the same people, but it's just that different things have happened to them in these lives.
Do you find in your head, right, that you think of book 1 Nick and book 2 Nick as two different people?
Yes, I had always, a long time ago, but I used to call him Waiter Hero. It's like in the second book, I'd always imagined him just being an ordinary person. So he was like the hero in book 1, and then I imagine them. I imagine Nick being very different, but actually I don't think Aaron is that different, because really the only difference between this Aaron and the first book Aaron is that, his family was massacred along with Joan. I hope that's not too much of a spoiler for book 1. And then they were on the run together. So It's only Joan that is different for Aaron, but Nick, his whole life was different. So yeah, I really had that in my mind as I was writing the books as well. It's like Nick is a little bit different actually, but Aaron is not that different as a person.
I think that's so fascinating, because essentially you took away Nick's trauma.
Yes.
And then he became different. Yeah, you gave him and then Aaron, in a way, you also took away his trauma with the massacre, but his trauma goes so much deeper.
Yeah, it's funny because in a way, the trauma of the massacre is Joan's trauma. It's like Aaron has been through some stuff before this massacre even happened. So he's already traumatized. He's already dealing with some stuff.
I'm going to get a hold of myself. So, I mean, speaking of all of these different timelines, very notoriously, I think there is a belief in the writer world that time travel is quite literally the hardest plot to write. Kudos to you that you keep track of all of this. How do you do it? Do you have spreadsheets going into it? Do you kind of just...
No, I think I thought it was going to be really easy because I love time travel. It's like one of my absolute most favorite subgenres. I feel like I've seen every time travel film, TV show, episode, read every book, but then so I was like, oh, what a breeze. I love if I love it.
Like, I know this genre, I can do it.
And then pretty much straight away as I started not even writing the book, just thinking about the world building, I was like, this is not a breeze. Why would I have done this? It was really hard. It was I think there were lots of things that I didn't realize were going to be hard, like just stakes. It's like, well, why don't you time travel out of this situation and then you won't even have to be here anymore? Or like that you really lose time jeopardy, like something has to happen within the next hour or everyone's going to die, but you can also just time travel out of that situation. And then you have like multiple timelines. But I did this really silly thing that I would not recommend, which was I spent about 3 years just thinking about the world and the world building, how everything worked, how the time travel worked, like really, really thinking about it. I've got tons of notes that will never be used for anything. I feel like I know a lot about the world building that will never be used.
That shows.
Do such a thing. But yeah, I think by the time I actually started to write it, it was pretty clear in my head. Like I knew how time travel worked in this universe. And then after that, there were just narrative problems like, why don't they just time travel out of this situation? But then you can come up with solutions for that in the moment, you know.
I feel like it must have been hard too, right, to keep track of what different characters remember, because
actually, yes, that was that was really hard. I don't think, because I also really love time amnesia when only one person remembers what happened. Like,
you love the end.
Yeah, but again, I was like, oh, you fool, Vanessa. Now you have to keep track of what everybody knows. But I guess that was also part of the fun. Like I really enjoyed reintroducing characters.
Yeah. Again, it's like conceptually maybe a do-over, but for the characters, for us as readers, it's seeing different sides of them. It's as if you've seen one angle in a different environment, and then you see them in another environment, and you just learn more.
Exactly. It's just like you're kind of just pushing them around, like just twisting them so you can see different angles of them, but they are the same people deep down.
Yeah. Oh, I wanted to know, how much of a true mastermind were you before you went into this? Do you know the whole events of the true timeline?
Oh, the true timeline. I do know the events of the true timeline. I feel like it's so funny because when I started plotting book one, because I'd done that foolish 3 years of work before I started writing it. So I thought I could just fit everything into one book. I didn't understand until I started typing the first page that, oh no, actually you can't cram 3 television seasons worth of plot into one book like I thought you could. So I had planned almost everything that comes out. I'd already thought about them. I had thought I could shove them into book one, but that didn't happen. So in a way, I kind of plotted using reveals of like the information that I wanted to come out, as well as, you know, action reveals, action events. But yeah, I was like, what order of things do I let people know when I'm writing these books? Because I was like, I know so much backstory. I know the little bit of backstory, that I know the far backstory. I know everything that happened before this.
The mastermind behind it all. So you know how book 3 ends already. You went in knowing the ultimate.
I know how book 3 ends. I'm very excited. I can't wait for people to read it. I think everyone's going to really like it.
I agree. Okay. I want to know about your research for this book, because I really found it fascinating, and I loved the fact that, you know, we go into these very familiar periods in history, but then we don't go to the usual like rich white places that like television shows show us. You gave us like Chinatown, and you then gave us these like senses of the environment that were so rich. So what sort of research did you do to kind of like have that unfold on the page?
Yeah, and it was during my 3 years of foolish everything planning. I did so much research, especially on London's Chinatown. I actually I thought I was going to move that setting to book 3 because I was like, you don't have time to research this part of it right now. But then I went back into my Scrivener file, and I had done already so much research on London's Chinatown. Some of it wasn't even online anymore. I had taken notes at the library. I didn't even remember doing that. It was like, thank you so much, past Vanessa.
That was not traveling.
Yeah. So yeah, I did a lot of research, and it was such a fascinating place. That kind of 1890s, kind of 1900s, and a little bit later than that. That was when all of the early Chinese dock workers first started to arrive in London, and they had their own area which no longer exists. That Chinatown is gone now, very sadly. Yeah. But actually, weirdly, I think the hardest part of all of that research was modern London. I feel like that I'm terrified of writing more modern London. I'm not English, but lots of people are, and so I think they would be really like, well, that's not right, is it? And I would be like, I know, I'm sorry.
Did you go to London while you were?
I went to London. I did a lot of time on Google Street View, like a lot
So
of time,
solid.
just looking around virtual London on Google Street View. But yeah, kind of as a reward, after I finished the first book, I was like, I think I'll go to London, actually.
And it's intense, you know?
It was surreal. It's like I was walking around in my own imagination. I was like, this really is a real place.
There were some little details that I so appreciated, such as the fact that the Lius in the book normalize calling the true timeline, like in Chinese, the 真实历史, right? And
Yes.
I loved that this was as casually dropped as, say, the Latin phrases. It's this very natural cultural blend. So
Yeah.
I would ask you about that. Was it intentional as you were going into it, or did it feel natural?
Yeah, it really was. I feel like I always like world building where, and I feel like you do this too, where it's like things have different terms to different people. It's like things are addressed conceptually even differently to different people. So I got a lot of help from my my stepmother, who's from mainland China, and my dad. I was like, I really want to put not even just, you know, the word for true timeline, but I wanted to put really accurate names in there. I was like, what would the name be if they were kind of this diaspora generation, and their surname was Liu? I was like, what would their name be? What would and their personalities like this, because they really like, but what are they like? I can't just name them. I don't know what they're like. So I really put a lot of effort in thinking about the language, thinking about how the different monster families, who are all kind of from different cultural backgrounds, think about the world building. Yeah, that was really important to me.
I love that, especially because, you know, names mean so much. Chinese people have such intense opinions
So
on
many names.
I remember when I told my mom what I was going to give Juliet, my main character's Chinese name, she went, was she born in a farm? I thought she was a city heiress. And I was like, oh my God, you could have said that nicely. So then my
They have
mom,
opinions.
yeah, they have such strong opinions. My mom also named all of my characters.
I know. I just feel like they're so expert in that area. I just really wanted them to be right as well, like the names to be right.
Yeah, and it gives such like, it gives so much more like detail to that world.
Yes.
It gives that extra
And
bit of
authenticity. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Oh, as a fellow down under, except I'm in the States right now. My accent is sometimes people don't even know. But as a fellow
I can hear it.
ANZ person, I'd love to hear about your experience like as an Australian writer. Like, have you found that Australianisms will slip into your work?
Oh my gosh, so much that I remember I had to do a weather draft for London because I'd really written it as though it was it's like a Melbourne summer. It was like so hot, so dry, the glass so dead. And then I was like, wait a minute, I don't think London is like that. And then I actually had to do that as well when I was thinking about winter. I was like, so lush, so green in winter. And then I remembered, oh no, actually in the Northern Hemisphere, all the leaves fall down. It's not so lush and green. But that, yeah, I always feel like I think about seasons in reverse. So yeah, that was, and I feel like I also really overlaid Melbourne demographics onto London, which I didn't realize until I got there.
Melbourne lens, you know? Yeah.
Demographics are different. I really just wrote Melbourne as a skin over London in some ways.
Do you think you would write?
I would also love to say that I feel like this is just such an exciting time for ANZ writers, especially like Asian Australian writers. I can see Sydney Koo is here, and they just wrote this really amazing book called The Spider and Her Demons. Check it out. It's in Sydney. I'm really. There's 4 Asian Australians publishing YA books this year. So also Lian Yong and Liang, of course, who is amazing. Oh my goodness, it's me. I'm the 4th one.
Do you think that you would write Australian set stories anytime soon?
It's a really good question. Like, do you think you would set a book in New Zealand? Like, I would love to. I'm afraid that the audience won't be big enough. I don't know. I would love to though. I'd love to just write something without having to do such intense research. What about you? What do you reckon? reckon.
I feel that. I do feel that. I have a manuscript set in New Zealand in a drawer somewhere, because I wrote it. I wrote it right after these Mountain Lights, and after I finished it, I thought to myself, "This is not the right time for it." I just don't think I've done enough in my like brand space yet to then branch out to like. I mean, I think that's just the reality of like especially Asian diaspora writers.
That point, like, I would love, just not even. There is some, it's so much more effortful to write set somewhere else. It's like you're just not familiar with the customs as familiar as you wish you think you are. Just from watching television, you aren't.
Yeah. So it's also like we have a hard enough time writing like Asian diaspora characters. Then we have to add on like the Australian, New Zealanders, and people are going to be like,
But yeah, again, I would just say, please read Lian Yong, please read Sydney Koo. Like those books, I don't know, they meant so much to me when I was reading them. I was like, oh my gosh, I've never seen really myself in a book like this before. Unreal. So special.
No, it's so wonderful that those books exist because they're the ones paving the way first for more to come.
Exactly.
Okay. We're almost reaching time. So I want time for our part of discussion because I'm giving the audience time to also ask their questions. I'm being selfless with my time picking Vanessa's brain. But audience members, think of your questions because we're going to come to you soon. But before we do, I want to ask about your covers because I love industry goss on like the covers. So tell us about the process of this. Did you have much say? Did you like try
well, I did, and I was just so lucky. I feel like the first cover by Eden Tan, who is a Melbourne artist, I think Harper found her on Instagram. She'd never done a cover before, and they sent it to me almost fully formed. Like I saw, they called it a color sketch, but it looked pretty much exactly like the cover ended up being. And I remember because everything happens really early in the morning for me because everybody on the other side of the world does all the work at night. And I wake up and I was like really remembering. I like opened my phone. I was like, what? Like I was just sort of squinting at the cover, and then I was like, "Oh, it's so amazing!" It really woke me up. And yes, I feel like again, Evie has just done it again with this. I mean, it's just so. I think all I asked was for a knife, and she made this amazing art. I've got a shout out as well, Kelly Chong, who did my UK covers. They're just stunning. I can't get over all my covers.
You're absolutely beautiful. Yeah, I love it too when there are two sets of covers and they're different in different ways, but they get at that same feeling, And I think they did such a job of yours.
Yeah, it's like they show different elements of the book or different parts of the feels of the books.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love it. Okay, finally, before we move to the burning question, there are so many. Okay, finally. Can you give us any teasers about book 3?
Oh, sorry, that's my male person. Yes, I think, well, I mean, I feel like the romances will really ramp up a lot in book 3. I like a lot, which I'm really enjoying writing. And I guess I'm really excited to do the plot end game as well. So I would just say the stakes are even higher than they are in book 2, which were even higher than they were in book 1. And that's not just the plot, that will be like the romance stakes as well. So I'm very, very excited to write. I'm excited about writing all of this section.
Can I have an early copy when they're ready?
Yes.
Great. I'm holding you to that. Okay.
In case I forget, I had a little competition for. I've got this little pointer. Yeah. This one was actually inspired. The UK cover. Speaking of covers, they asked me, did I have any visual images that kind of inspired the book, and I said, yeah, this little lion chop.
Oh, amazing!
Really inspired the book for me. So anyone's here and like to win a little lion chop, I guess just DM me on Instagram and do like a password lion, Lion. I don't know if you can understand my accent, lion.
Imagine they were like lying.
I would still put you in the raffle if you were in line.
Okay. Everyone, don't forget to enter. You want it. Let me click to Q&A.
Lion.
Okay. Let me ask the questions. Okay. Do we see more powers of the different monster family?
We do. After my 3 years of development work with all of the monster powers,
I wanted to
put
get out.
all of them in there, but I still couldn't fit all of them in there. I think I feel like with the monster powers, I had created these just regular powers like that everybody in that family had, and then I had like these deeper powers that really strong members of the family had. So there's still some of those still to come out, but yeah, we'll see more. We'll see the Argent power, we'll see the Griffith power, and I think we'll have hints of a lot of the other powers as well. But yeah, that was really fun to write.
Love it. Okay, next question. How do you prepare writing about time travel in the novel? This person is a fan of time travel, and any helpful lessons from Clarion Workshop? I'm a teacher and UCSD alumni.
Oh my goodness! Wow. I think with time travel, actually one of the Clarion tutors told me about this. You have to come up with your model first, right? You have to know what kind of time travel it is. Is it a loop like Groundhog Day, or is it something where you can't really change anything and everything is fated, or is it more like mine where you can change things but it's hard? So you want to be really thinking about your model and thinking about what happens if this, what happens if that, in terms of like the narrative itself. Like, I think time travel is tricky because, as I said before, it kind of messes up your stakes. So you have to think of other ways to create stakes or put it in your model. Like, and Clarion, I feel like that I think my best advice from Clarion was from Karen Joy Fowler. And she said, if you get stuck, don't worry about the words or the prose, the way you're saying it. Just really imagine you're there. Really imagine the characters. Just really go in the scene, and hopefully you won't be stuck anymore. That was my favorite advice from Clarion.
Very evocative. Get right in there. Ground level work. Okay. Next one. I think the question's randomly resorted, and I was looking at one and then it disappeared, so hopefully it comes back. Okay. Could you tell us about your journey from writing the manuscript for Only a Monster to getting published?
Yeah, so it's funny. I feel like I had 2 starts. One was actually with Shelley Parker-Chan, who just did an event with you, right?
Yes. I saw them on Friday, and I was like, I'm seeing Vanessa soon online, but I'm seeing her soon.
Yeah, and I think Sis Cat was definitely there, and a couple of other friends were there at this dinner where we're just all like, I think I really want to write a book. And then everyone there really wanted to write a book, and so we were like, why don't we make a pact to write a book? So we all just kind of wrote them at the same time. And I think my other Kickstarter was after Clarion, we did another pact. I think pacts really work for me. I like when other people are also doing the same thing as me. We did a 300-word a day pact. So we didn't actually keep it up for that long, but it was like a New Year's resolution. So for about a month, maybe in January, we all did 300 words a day, and that really helped me get started. That was after my 3 years of planning. I was like, this is too much planning. It's time to write.
Sometimes the hardest part is getting the words down. Like, it's easier to do all the prep work and then not actually write the book.
Yeah, the story at some point has to start. It can't just be a world.
Okay. What was your favorite part of writing book 2? And then this person goes, BTW, I just read chapters 28 and 29, and they were my favorite parts of the book so far. Thank you so much for writing the series.
I don't remember what's in those chapters, but yay! I think my favorite part of writing book 2 was, I guess, bringing the characters back. As each character came back, I was really excited to see them as if I wasn't writing them. I was like, yeah, your time is to come. You can come back into the narrative. I'm really happy to see you there. I think it was also really fun to write. I'm sure you found this too, to write characters that you've spent so much time with already. Like, you just feel like you just know them really well, and it becomes less I don't know, I guess more fun, and you really kind of naturally know what they would do in these circumstances, what they would say. So I feel really privileged to have got to write these characters over, so many books. Well, 2 books, 3 books.
I completely agree. I feel like the sequel, you have done the groundwork already, and as you start it with these characters, you hit the ground running. You just go to 100 straight away.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Okay. What are you both currently reading right now?
Oh my goodness. I am reading. I just did a reread. Well, I just read Immortal Longings, which was amazing. Amazing. Oh my gosh. I was like, I wish to be a body jumping assassin. Amazing.
I want that too.
Oh my gosh. I don't know if I won't spoil it, but I thought I was shocked by the sort of 3/4 mark twist, and then I was so shocked by the last one.
Thank you. I'm glad.
I did
I'm glad.
not see that
That
coming.
was what I wanted to shock, so I'm very glad to hear it.
I did not see that coming. And I've also been rereading for an event with Alexis Hall tomorrow, boyfriend material, which is also amazing. I've also read June C.L. Tan's new book that's coming out next year, Darker by Four, which was...
I'm so excited to read it. I have it in my inbox.
I'm so excited for people to read that book.
Okay, I'm so excited. I'm gonna read it next then, after your seal of approval. Well, I mean, I was gonna read it soon anyway, but like now I'm gonna like read it next.
No, it's really good.
Well, obviously, the last thing I read was Never Hero, because I was like, let me read it so I can do my questions. And then the last thing I read before that was it's actually right here, and it's all tabbed up. It was my event with Shelley, so I was reading.
Oh, yeah.
Great. It is such a good conclusion. Like, oh my god, the amount of like, chaos and political mess. I was like, this is so well done. I cannot put this.
So beautiful, so beautiful and so painful.
So many moments of like absolute tender like devastation. You know?
Yes. And the pros. I don't know the pros.
Yeah. Excellent. So excellent. Shelley's pen. Okay. Let's see. Oh, what character do you relate to most? Oh, yeah, what character do you most relate to from your books? I loved Only a Monster so much. Your style is amazing and your characters are awesome. Smiley face.
Thank you. That's a really good question. I feel like I don't know. I feel like all the characters have some aspect of you because you're writing them. But I suppose I relate slightly to Joan, just in that I really deliberately gave her a sort of similar background to mine. I was like, I wanted to include her, just because I hadn't had that representation when I was growing up. So she was there, not because she's like me in personality. I feel like I would be more like Aaron, being like, I don't think we should do the adventure. I just want to stay home. That would be me. I'd be like Aaron. Whereas Joan is like, let's do an adventure. And yeah, I would rather stay home, I think. So yeah, I think I slightly relate to Joan, just in that I had put that representation in there. But also Aaron, because he does not wish to go on an adventure.
Aaron is so relatable. There's this one line where he was like, I would have done this. And I literally laughed out loud.
And he's like, why don't we just not?
Yeah, he's like, guys, come on, get with the plan.
I mean, does the world really need saving? Or does it have to be us?
I love him. Okay. I'm trying to spread it out so I get to everyone's questions. How did you like writing the second book compared to the first one? Was some parts more difficult or easier?
I would say the actual book was easier, but writing the book was really hard. I was in quite a long series of lockdowns in Melbourne, which I very much supported, but they were really hard creatively. It was like, I don't know, I didn't realize how much I'm creatively just fueled by just spending time with people, and I think so in that way it was really hard, but in the book sense it was like such a delight to be back with those characters. So yeah, it was both easy and very hard.
Yeah, lockdown on a creative level was not great.
No, it was like I had this giant board with the structure of book 2, which if you've read it gets very intense sometimes, and I was like, it's just me and this weird board writing this book.
Yeah, it's wild too, because for a lot of us authors who debuted in like 2020 or 2021, like having this COVID writing space is kind of like the majority of what we've known, and then suddenly it's like, oh, actually it didn't used to be like this. Yeah.
And hopefully, yes. I feel like yeah, it was such a strange time to debut, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, wild times. Okay, I really like this question. I don't know if you can tell us though, so we'll try our luck. Do you have any plans for new books or series after you finish
Oh,
this
I
book?
do. I really want to. I feel like you can see my desperation to write a heist in book one, where I had written like, well, it was meant to be a heist, but then it just turned into like. At one point, my critique partner said, "Now it's just a break-in. Now we're just gate crashing a party. It's not even a heist anymore." So I really would love to write a heist book.
Oh, I'm so excited for that. That would be so fun. Okay. This question: do you both have any tour plans for New Zealand/Australia?
Oh my gosh. Well, I will be at, well, I've got a Melbourne launch tomorrow. If anyone is in Melbourne, I would love to see you there. Linked in my bio. And I'll be in Sydney in mid-October. What about you, Chloe?
Well, I was very recently in both Brisbane and Auckland.
Yes, I got a fine coffee. I was very happy. I was very happy.
What?
Brisbane.
Yeah, I was very recently there. I mean, when was that? June? May? That was May.
Was it May? I think it was May, yeah.
That was May, yeah. I'm never like away for long. Like the last 2 years, I've done New Zealand tours every time I'm home. It's never very full. Like for anyone who doesn't know, usually tours, like your publishers are the ones organizing it. Very rarely can authors do it themselves.
Yeah.
So every time I'm like home in Auckland, they're like, "Hey, can we like steal you for a few days? Like, go sign some books, put in some work." I'm kidding. I love Hachette New Zealand. They're great.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you let us know if Frankie will be okay?
Frankie will be okay. In fact, in the US version, she's already okay. There's a slight difference between the UK and
Wait, how different are the versions?
Frankie is like extra okay in the US ending. Yeah,
Is
Frankie,
it like
this is a spoiler for book 3. I had just really loved the idea of Tom having a little black cat that Frankie gets grumpy with, so that's why. That's why I did the thing that I did. But yes, Frankie's fine.
So I have to ask, how different are the other UK US versions?
Oh, I can't. No, that's too much of a spoiler for the end of book 3. It's just that something seems to happen to Frankie, which didn't happen, which was never going to happen actually. But Frankie was always fine, and it's still fine.
I love that. I get the same question with Immortal Longings when everyone's like, "Is Mau going to be okay?" And I'm like, Mau's always going to be okay.
If there's any character that will always be okay,
yeah. It's like I can't guarantee someone else's survival, but I will guarantee Mau's survival. Like that's not a spoiler.
I never had a second of worry for Mau.
Exactly, he's gonna be fine. You know, even if the whole city burns down, he will be fine. Okay. Oh, what is your favorite movie that involves time traveling? And I guess as an adult, inspired.
Oh my gosh, that is a really good question. I actually really loved the time travel in Endgame. I don't know. I guess you'd known the characters for so long by then, and it was just really fun to see them time travel. But I've got so many like this is not exactly time travel, but Ted Chiang wrote Story of Our Life, Story of Your Life, which was it's kind of like a first contact where sorry, I'm getting really boring because I'm a massive fan of Ted Chiang. Anyway, it's
no, really never boring. Keep telling us more. I'm just checking. Mysterious Galaxy, how much time do we have left? Should I speed up through these questions because there are quite a lot? Let me find which one. Okay. What is your favorite character that you have written?
Oh my gosh, that's a really good question. I feel like it changes from book to book, from scene to scene. I often enjoy a character who's just shaking up the scene, who's saying things that are really blunt or like is annoying everybody else in the scene. So I really love writing Jones Gran, who's very blunt. I really enjoy writing Aaron when he's like just antagonizing everyone in the room. I like Ruth for that reason as well. I just like people who annoy other people when you're writing them.
I love it because it also creates like conflict, and when people argue, you get to see them more. Like fun. Okay. So someone has asked, Team Aaron or Team Nick? Has your stance changed since Only a Monster? But I don't think you can answer that.
No, I think it's team both of them. Team both of them.
Okay. Have you got any plans to tour in the UK?
Oh, I wish. I would love that. I would love that.
UK
Yeah.
readers,
Like,
you need to go
it's such
bother
a been
Potter.
overseas. Yeah, I haven't been overseas since the end of COVID, but I would love to. I'd love to.
Again, publishers are the ones that like organize the thing. So anytime people are like, please come to this place or please come to that place, or like, I want you to come to this place, I'm like, you need to go bother the publishers. Some annoying emails, and then they will bring your authors to you.
Yeah.
Watch me say this, and then like, is your publicist also Kate at Hodder?
Yes. Yes.
And then Kate gets flooded with emails. She's like, Chloe.
No, don't do that to Kate. Leave
Okay. What was your favorite scene from Only a Monster? And I guess if you can non-spoilery say, what was your favorite scene from Never a Hero?
Oh, good questions. I think my favorite scene in Only a Monster was, I'm really laughing because I really enjoyed the heist I didn't get to do. I did do a draft of the heist.
You did all
the heist. It was really fun. But I guess in general, I really liked writing that middle heist. But I also really liked writing weirdly just when Joan, Aaron, and Ruth were all in the room, just kind of being grumpy to each other. I feel like that was, in a way, the most fun scenes of all to write.
The band.
Oh, and Never a Hero. Oh, what can I say? I had written. I don't know how you do it, but I often write scenes that I really want to write first. So the ones that I'm really excited to get to, and then I just kind of place them into the plot and write towards them or right after them. So I had written, I think I would just say all the very emotional scenes are the ones that I love the most.
See, I can't do that because I use the ones that I really, really want to write as like little treats.
Oh, and incentives.
I'm a very linear writer. I'm like, all of this needs to be built up so then I can get to my little treat.
I'm like, I'll have dessert first, and then I'll do
I love that. Okay, and then someone asked, what was my favorite part of Never a Hero? I can't spoil that.
It's very spoilery.
Read it. Oh, out of each of the 12 monster families in London, which one would you want to be in?
I think I would want to be the Hathaways. I feel like everyone's some of those powers are kind of a curse. I think the lead power is a little bit of a curse because they remember things that they remember everything, but they also remember things that didn't happen in other timelines. That seems quite sad sometimes. I would be a Hathaway because then I can like travel with a pet. I can I think that's the most fun power of all. Aaron says that it is the worst power. It's not.
Good question. What would I want to be? I feel like I would just like die. You know, I'm so bad at like surviving in tough situations.
I mean, I feel like most people in that world are just lying low doing their things. It's all these fools that are on an adventure.
I would become one of those people who like, one of those monsters that are like just like flailing around and then you get eliminated, you know?
Yeah.
I'd be one of Nick's earlier victims.
Me too.
Okay. How do you write and assess your own work critically? I guess from a craft angle, how do you think?
So how do you write and assess your own work critically? That is a really, really good question. I think sometimes I have an editorial background, and I think sometimes as I'm writing, I can be too critical. I could be like, I don't know if I should do this, if I should do that. So in a way, I almost have to shut that little critical voice off while I'm writing, because in a way it's always there. And then I really use a critique partner to kind of just, just be like, no, actually, this is good. This is really good. Don't be so critical. So I get other people to help me out when I want to actually do an edit, when I want to be critical of my own work.
I think that's a really good point, especially as writers. We have a tendency to be overcritical on ourselves. So then, the other way around. So sometimes you really just need other opinions that you trust. That is the critical part. You have to trust them, or else there are too many cooks in the kitchen. But
you can't have too many voices because you'll just have a really big range of opinions.
Hello.
Hello. We are getting near close to time, but I wanted to make sure there was room for you both to talk about where can people find you on social media if they want to see what's going on, what's going on.
Well, you can find me at vanessa.len_writes or vanessalen.com. Chloe?
I'm the same handle everywhere. I'm at the Chloe Gong or thechloegong.com. Because I couldn't get just chloegong.com.
Yeah, I can get Vanessa Len.
And I must say, I got confused quite a bit because every time you both kept like saying Nick, like what? What about me? Like, oh, that's right. There's a character named Nick. But we kind of,
I see it. I see the resemblance.
I see it. Everyone has
the pouty face. Don't forget, everyone, make sure you get your orders in if you haven't already to get these wonderful character cards and art cards, signed book plate, and bookmarks. Mysterious Galaxy is the only place you can get all of them. You can get some of them elsewhere. You can get all of them through us.
Worth it.
Yes, and is it true, Chloe, you're going to be at Y'all West?
Y'all Fest, yes. It is
Y'all
very
Fest. Okay.
Yes, November.
Yes.
I'm excited.
Someone said it in the chat. So
Yes.
if everyone would like to be at Y'all Fest, say hi to Chloe there.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. And don't forget, if you missed most of this or some of this, you can rewatch it under the same link, or you can watch it on our YouTube channel. We should have the video by tomorrow. All right, everyone. Have a good night. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for coming, especially the even way more post-midnight people now.
4 a.m. people. Oh my goodness.
Amazing. And thank you, Chloe. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Mysterious Galaxy.
Such a
Of course. Bye.